Hello everybody and welcome back. It is Michael from Hallowed Thrills back with another video, and as promised, today we'll be talking about my hype list for HHN 2022, or HHN 31 in Orlando and HHN 2022 in Hollywood, because we'll be talking about both Orlando and Hollywood's hype lists for this year's events, because I'll be attending both coasts' HHN events. Super excited. This is going to be the first year that I'll be going out to Hollywood for their event, so I'm super excited to take a look at what they have and what John Murdy has put together this year. But before we get into all that, please make sure that you are subscribed and have those bell notifications turned on to get notified whenever I post a video, and also make sure you follow me on both my Instagram and my Twitter. We recently just announced all of the haunts that we're going to be attending this year for the Hallowed Haunt Tour. This week I put out the trailer on Monday. So if you haven't checked that out, please make sure you go check that out and see all of the haunts that we plan on hitting both in September and October of this year. Super excited to check out all of them and super excited to share them all with you. But now let's finally get into these hype lists. So we're going to be starting off with Orlando. Orlando is the first hype list we are going to talk about, and we're going to talk starting at the shows, going to the scare zones, and then finally finishing off with the houses, because, you know, I gotta make you guys wait a little bit. But starting off with those shows, we got two shows for Orlando. So starting off with my second out of the two. Number 2 out of the two shows is Halloween Nightmare Fuel Wildfire. I know I absolutely loved Halloween Nightmare Fuel last year, but my number 1 is just so interesting and so unique, and I'm really more excited for that, because I'm not sure what to expect with the second variation of Nightmare Fuel to make it different enough where I'd be willing to see it more than once. But my number 1, I'm extremely hyped for. It just sounds amazing, and that would be Ghoulish, a Halloween Tale. This just looks really awesome. They recently put out props in the street for it, like the actual marquee for it. And there's one thing on that marquee that looks very interesting to me, where it says side 1 and side 2 with the show times. Now I'm not sure if that's just a play on the fact that the actual marquee for it is a record, like a record and a sleeve, or if there's actually 2 different shows throughout the night, which would be super cool and actually make me think about going back and seeing it more than once. But Ghoulish, a Halloween Tale is my number 1 most hyped show coming to Orlando for this year. Now heading on to the Scare Zones. Scare Zones, number 5. All of these are really great. It was a little bit harder to rank these, but number 5, I have to put down Conjure the Dark. This one, I'm not really sure how I feel about it. The props look awesome in the streets so far, and I'm excited to see, because I saw that the runes do glow at night. And like I see that there's a stage, there's gonna be a show. It's gonna be interesting, but it's just the location for it. San Francisco is just so crowded, and I'm not sure if I'm actually gonna be able to stand there and enjoy the performance that they're putting on that stage, the actual show, the actual zone itself. That's just why it's down on the bottom of my list for me, just because of the location of it. But moving on to number 4, we have Graveyard Deadly Unrest. Graveyard Deadly Unrest, I mean, the street looks immaculate. It literally has one of the most props that I've seen in the Hollywood zone over the past couple years, because they haven't been able to put out many props in the past years because of those parades. But this year we have no parades, so it looks like a good zone, but it doesn't look unique and different enough for me, because it just sounds like a zombie zone, and it's just not really interesting enough for me. I mean, I could be wrong, but as of right now, other than the actual props themselves, there's just not enough to go off for me to put it too high. Moving on to number 3, this one I kind of wanted to put higher, but I ended up putting it at the middle of the road because it could let me down and be a photo op zone that it's been in the previous one, and that is the Plaza of the Stars zone, Horrors of Halloween. Now this zone is supposed to have the Pumpkin Lord in it, and you see all those pumpkins in the truss that is up right now, and it looks super awesome. The vines going up and everything about it looks super cool. I'm excited to see what it's about. But then again, I'm very concerned that it could end up like a photo op zone that we've seen in that area previously. But they did put out the Pumpkin Lord's pumpkin recently, so it might climb up my list. We'll see. It looks like Pumpkin Lord is further up in that zone, so he could be part of our big event, like our big opening ceremony this year, which has me even more hyped for this zone. Number 2, we have Scarecrow Cursed Soil. This one I am so over the moon excited for. The props look awesome. I'm excited for that barn to finally go up. I'm excited to see the scares that come out of that barn. And the way that they're explaining it as like kind of like a mini house while in the streets is amazing. I'm way over the moon excited about this. It could be easily number 1 if my number 1 doesn't pan out like I think it will. But I just really think that number 2 is going to be Scarecrow Cursed Soil, just because it just looks so awesome right now. And when they put those scare actors in it and those lanterns in the trees get lit, I think it's going to be amazing. But number 1, probably the most hype zone just in general with the amount of props that they put out, and it's always kind of like this at the beginning of the year when they start putting props out. The New York zone is always going to be the most hyped. Sweet Revenge is my number 1 most hyped scare zone as of right now heading into the event. And it just looks so cool. The actual set pieces, the fact that it looks like kind of like a street fair, and the fact that they're combining this with and like making it drag into the actual tribute store. It's one of a kind and something that's never been done in a New York zone. But I am interested to see what kind of scare actors they have in there. I know it's supposed to be kids, but I don't know. I'm interested to see. Maybe we'll actually see Major Sweet in the zone. But I am really fascinated by the zone and how unique it is, and how it's something that hasn't really been done at Halloween Horror Nights before. But that wraps up the zone, so now it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's talk about those houses. So we have the 10 houses that are going to be at this year's event in Orlando, starting off with number 10. Now this may be coming as a surprise for a lot of you, because a lot of people have this higher up because of the scare factor and the possibility of that scare factor this year. But I am rating it a little bit differently because I'm not as hyped for this house because of the implications of it. And like, I don't really like spiders, which means bugs eaten alive is at number 10 for me, because I am not excited for this house at all. I don't like spiders, I don't like creepy, I don't like crawly. I'm just not excited for this house at all. And I keep saying this might be a one and done for me just because, not a fan. And I really hope that this isn't part of the Unmasking the Horror Tour, because I don't think I'll be able to go through it. They'll have to drag me through that house to be able to have me go through it, even with the lights on. I hope they're completely overhyping it, but I'm not. I have a feeling that they're not, and I have a feeling this is probably going to be one of the scariest houses we've had in recent years. Number 9, I wish I could put this higher, but there's just so many mysteries about it. Now, I keep hearing different thoughts about it and different rumors about it, but just not enough concrete evidence to make me feel like I can put it higher as of right now. But this could be our upset of the year, and that is Hellblock Horror. This was the one that just got thrown in at the last second, an original that just got thrown in the last second as Evil Dead Rise got the axe. Now, like I said, this could be our like, oh my god, where did this come from, house of the year? Because it does sound like, from what I'm hearing with rumors, it could be a very fan servicey house, which, I mean, of course, fan service, it gets me every time. So this could end up jumping up the list super fast, but as of right now, it's stuck at number 9 just because we don't know enough about it. But moving on, number 8. I'm surprised that I put this at number 8, but this is just falls under the same category as Hellblock Horror, where I don't have enough of a good enough image of it in my mind to really get hyped for it. And that's Descendants of Destruction. I know the facade looks awesome as of right now. It kind of looks like a subway and everything, and it just looks cool from the outside, but the inside, I'm just having a hard time understanding the story of it. Like, I know as you get further and further through the house, you get further and further down, and the people start turning more and more into creatures, but I just, it's not really, doesn't sound really interesting to me. I know it's supposed to kind of be another version, another story telling off of Seeds of Extinction. So maybe I'll end up loving it because I loved Seeds of Extinction, but we'll have to see, because right now it's at number 8 for me, just because I just not feeling it yet. I'm not feeling it yet. But number 7, I'm actually very surprised at how high this is on my list. I expected this to be a lot lower, but compared to the other 3, I'm actually really excited for this, especially since I most recently rewatched one of these movies, and that is that Blumhouse is at number 7. I recently rewatched Black Phone, and that got me even more hyped for this house. I still have to watch Freaky for the first time, but I'm sure I absolutely love that because I was super excited when that originally came out and just never got around to it. I love Vince Vaughn. I love the whole concept of the movie, so I'm just really hoping that this house absolutely blows the previous 2 Blumhouses out of the water, and I hope it's the best one, and I hope it really gives that Fast and Furious location a good name right off the bat, compared to what we got with our first House of the Men in Black location, which didn't really do that great. But I hope that this gets that Fast and Furious location off on the right foot as being a good house location. But moving on to number 6, middle of the road here. I wanted to put it higher, but at the same time, the top of the half of the lineup is just so good that I can't put it any higher right now without going through it. And that is Universal Monsters Legends Collide. I know, it's going to be amazing. It's a 2-parter house, but that is another reason why I think it's going to be lower, because we're just seeing I think we're seeing the first half of it, which means that it's going to be a story that ends abruptly, that we don't really know what the end is. I hope it actually feels like it has a conclusive end at the end of the house, and it's just not straight up like a cutoff that says, "Ooh, go to Hollywood to see the rest of it." But we'll have to see. Right now it's at number 6 though. So let's move on to number 5. Number 5, I wanted to put it higher, just like the rest of these, but I just couldn't put it higher without actually seeing the house. And that is The Weeknd After Hours Nightmare. Now I know it's probably going to be great. I'm super excited for the actual soundtrack of this house. It's going to be fantastic. The music, and it's going to be fantastic. The imaging is going to be, the images are going to be fantastic. And I do hear that there's supposed to be a pre-show beforehand. I don't know how that's going to work. But that's just a slight rumor that I've been hearing. Not from any credible sources though, so don't trust me on that one. But we'll have to see. This is right in the middle of the road for me, right at number 5. It could go up, it could go down, but either way, I'm excited for it. But moving on to number 4, this is probably one of the bigger surprises on this list, other than Bugs at number 10, and that would be Spirits of the Coven at number 4. Now, Spirits of the Coven, I do love the concept. I love the fact that it's like flapper witches, 1920s, Prohibition era. It's just, the other 3 are just so much more hype for me, just because of the implications of the fact that I've loved the concept that I've heard over the past years when those didn't happen, but the fact that the witches just are gonna end up at number 4. They could definitely go up if number 3 doesn't pan out the way I think it is, but at number 4, that's Spirits of the Coven. Moving on to number 3. The only reason this is as high as it is because of the fact that I absolutely love this franchise, love this movie, and that would be the 1978 horror classic, Halloween. I love Michael Myers. I love the original 1978 film. I went and saw the filming locations because I just had to, because I love that movie so much. And this is going to be a dream come true for me, actually walking through this movie and seeing it for the first time, because I didn't actually get to see it when it was at the event for the first time. So being able to see it now is just a dream come true for me, and I'm super excited to be able to finally go through it, which is why it ends up at number 3. Number 2, though, I had a hard time going back and forth between 1 and 2, just because these are 2 properties, or 2 originals that I was just so excited to come to the event this year. But one had to edge out the other, and at number 2, we have Fiesta de Chupacabras. the whole theme of it with the village people all taking you and sacrificing you to the chupacabras during this fiesta, during this party, is just so interesting. And the fact that they're actually in on it and they're trying to summon the chupacabras to actually come and kill people is a turn that I didn't expect this house to take, and it makes me super excited, but not nearly as excited as number one, which is going to be Dead Man's Pier Winter's Wake. This house, winter, ocean, the dead men from the Dead Man's Wharf, oh my god, the murder fisherman. It's going to be great. There's going to be snow effects. It's going to be cold in that house. At least I hope so. I want my shit to get absolutely rocked in this house, man. I want there to be scares to the left, scares to the right, people with hook hands coming out, man. I just want this house to be everything I imagine. I could be completely overhyping it for myself, but the last time that we had a house that was based on like a ship in a soundstage, it was my favorite house of all time and still is to this day, and that is Dead Waters. So I really hope that facade for this house just absolutely blows me away. This without a doubt is my number one most hyped Dead Man's Pier Winter's Wake. All right, so we wrapped up our Orlando hype list, and now let's head over to Hollywood. Well, let's do the shows. They got one, Jabberwockies. If I could put it any lower, I would, because I don't really care. Honestly, I'm going for 2 nights of the event. If I don't make it to the Jabberwocky show, am I really missing anything? No. I don't really care about the Jabberwockies, so I won't go out of my way to see it, but if it so happens that I have a free minute and the show is about to start, I might go see it. We'll see. It's not on the top priority right now. But let's move on to Scarezones, because they got 3. Not as many as Orlando, but they have 3 Scarezones this year. Starting off with number 3, Clown Saws. It's clowns with chainsaws. Clowns don't really do it for me as far as scare factor. Chainsaws are awesome. I love chainsaws. They really get me every time, but I'm interested to see how they're actually going to theme this zone enough to make me care about it. That's all I'm going to say. Moving on to number 2, Sideshow Slaughterhouse. This actually looks really awesome. The props that they've put out so far look cool. I'm interested to see what the actual scare actors look for it, but it could go up, it could go down. I don't really know. I doubt that it'll go up though, because my number 1 is solidified. I mean, El Pueblo del Terror sounds amazing. It sounds so cool. The actual like set pieces they have in there just look really cool. They look like postcards and like whole like displays explaining each of the different mythological creatures and urban legends from Latin American folklore. And I 100% guess that all of those creatures are going to be in the scare zone, including La Llorona, including the Chupacabra. It just is going to look so awesome, and I'm super excited for that. And the fact that it goes straight from the exit of La Llorona into that zone, chef's kiss, and that fits perfectly and 100% makes it my number 1. But now let's move on to the houses slash terror tram, because I partnered them all together. It's being a terror tram, number 8, terror tram, starring Hollywood Harry, featuring Jordan Peele's Us and Nope. I mean, I saw Us in a house. I loved it. Do I really need to see it again though this soon? Not really. I'm excited to see the Nope set, but I'm also going to be seeing it during the day, during the regular tram. So, And then Hollywood Harry is really the only redeeming factor for this house, and the fact that they have the whole classic Halloween section of it with Hollywood Harry. That's the only redeeming factor for this terror tram for me, but it's still not enough for me to really put it any higher right now. Number 7, it's put here. I wish I could put it higher just because of how good Hollywood's been at these types of houses in the past, and that's Blumhouse. Blumhouse has been the pinnacle of Hollywood IPs over the past couple of years. They've done a fantastic job over the past couple of years with Blumhouse being at the event, and I'm excited to see how they do it with this time around. I already know of one effect that John Murdy did say he is including in this house. That's a physical effect, a practical effect of the shop teacher getting absolutely destroyed by that chainsaw in Freaky, or not the chainsaw, the table saw in Freaky. So I'm excited to see that effect in action, but I also am excited to see that facade in person because it looks like a rundown Blockbuster or like a movie store. So it's a little bit different than they normally do with their Blumhouse houses, but I'm excited to see it nonetheless. But ends up at number 7 for me. Number 6, I wanted to put it higher just because they worked more closely with him in Hollywood, I think, other than compared to Orlando, because he's closer out there. But the other houses in this lineup are just so good that I couldn't put it any higher, and that is The Weekend After Hours Nightmare. This is, I believe, their soundstage house, so it could be amazing, the fact that it's in a soundstage compared to Orlando's being in one of the parade buildings. So, once again, it could jump up that list easily. But number 6 is where it's going to stay at right now for my hype list. But number 5, I finally am going to see it. I'm going to be able to shut up all of the Hollywood people that say it was better than ours in Orlando. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is at number 5. Ours was better. You guys didn't have a Clownzilla puppet. But I am excited to see your house nonetheless because of that exterior facade and the fact that you actually follow more of the movie like in order. So I'm excited to at least see that. But number 5 is where it's going to end up. Number 4, on the other hand, is another IP, because you guys just love your IPs, and that is Halloween, the 1978 classic, and I love the facade you guys have put together so far on that. So I already know that it's going to be great, and I've said as much as I could about it when I talked about Orlando, but I'm excited for the Halloween house. Like, come on. And the fact that I'm in California where the film was actually filmed, and I'm seeing going through a Halloween haunted house. Moving on to number 3. This is something I'm super excited for. I wish I could put it higher, but we don't really know much about it. And that's Universal's Horror Hotel. This looks so awesome. This original, I hope, starts a trend of really good originals in Hollywood. I really hope you guys can get your own like system of originals. I think this is going to be your guys' year where you really dive into those originals, get it down good, and start making more originals in the future. And the reason I say that is because number 2, another original, La Llorona, Weeping Woman. Yeah, I'm excited to see La Llorona. I heard that the first time it was at the event was amazing, and the fact that it's coming back now, and I heard that it's pretty much the same. I'm excited to see this house and see La Llorona at an actual HHN event for the first time. Moving on to number 1, can only mean one thing. Scarecrow the Reaping is number 1. It was, to date, one of the best houses in Orlando. From what I've heard, didn't get to see it because I was too scared the first year I went, because I wasn't really that into horror events at that time. But seeing as where I am now, I am 100% so excited to be able to go through this again and see, well, not go through this again, but go through this for the first time and actually see those characters, because I'm ready. I'm ready finally for them to absolutely scare the heck out of me and just wreck my shit, man. It's gonna be great. I'm so excited for both Orlando and Hollywood. But if you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure you drop a like down below and tell me what your hype lists are and what you agree with and what you disagree with down below in those comments. I really love to get your guys' feedback about this, and I really love to hear what you guys are excited for this year's events, both in Hollywood and Orlando. But as always, I'm Michael from Hollywood Thrills, giving you the all clear, and all clear means that you are out of here. I'll see you guys next time.